What I like about the Zulus scope, it's short. It's smaller than most optical scopes I put on here. It's lightweight. It weighs less or about the same weight as a normal scope that I use. I use lightweight, short scopes. I like the lens cap on the front. I like the battery they chose, the 18650s. When I use this, I take it out and I turn it on, and I carry it on my four-wheeler, and I don't turn it off until the end of the day when I get done using it. It'll usually last me about the whole day. If I turn it on, if I'm going to stop for any length of time, I'll turn it off. But if I'm just out shooting squirrels, which is what I do with this, I just leave it on, and it lasts a good part of a day. The price. You've all looked at these things and you know they're astronomically expensive, the other ones. When these electronic ones came out and you saw that the price was down $400 or $500, it just caught your attention, like me, I'm sure. And if it wasn't for the price, I wouldn't have one of these on my rifle. The camera. I didn't need night vision, but I wanted a scope that I could take photos, movies through the scope. And what I saw out there didn't appeal to me. Combining the price on a night vision electronic scope with the option to film, that was what sold me. That hooked me right there. So I bought it and tried it out. I've had no issues with this. I carry it on my ATV in a little rifle holder, much like this, and of course it rides in a Boyd rifle case inside that rifle holder. I didn't have any issues with it jarring. All the places I took it up in the mountains functioned every time. Every time I needed, every time I turned it on, it worked. Another thing I like about the camera is it's not like trying to set up a GoPro or your phone camera. You turn it off, you turn it on, it has plenty of resolution for what I need. When you show it on a laptop, a 15, 16-inch laptop, the resolution is fine. For what I use it for, it's great. The focus wheel, after you get the crosshairs and everything adjusted, the ocular, the focus on the field of view is very quick. You just barely turn this very small amount, and the focus goes up and down, and it's very easy to get a quick focus on something. So when you're looking through here, you can run one of your fingers up here and run that focus before you hit the record, or you can hit the record and then run the focus. What else? I like some of the smaller attention to detail. I like this serrated cap because you're going to have to use your fingers. This has got an O-ring. You're going to have to use your fingers to turn this as you use your other fingers to pinch this and open that or close that. But it's very good access to the SD card. I like that. That's very quick, very easy, very just boom, boom, boom. You're in, you're out. You got the card, download, throw it back in there and change batteries and you're off. You're ready to go. I haven't used this, but having a side Picatinny rail is pretty nice. I mean, a lot of places sell that as an accessory and you can buy it and add it, but it comes with this. This eye cup it comes with, you can't, I don't know how you could operate this without that eye cup, because I found you've got to get up on this in order to shoot accurately with it, and you've got to have your eyeball on that lens or that cup. The battery goes right here. You just pop this 18650 in there and you're ready to go. But look at this, attention to detail. minus and plus. You don't have to look on the inside of this cap for some barely discernible little stamp. It's right there. So you know which side is plus on your battery, you just stick that down. But if you forgot, there it is. The IR has a focus on here, just like the main lens. It focuses real quick. I like that. So those are the things I like. There's several things I don't like, and I'll get into that. Okay, I had some issues with this Zulus, and part of them were my own doing. When I got this in the wintertime, I didn't want to dismount a scope off of a rifle that I had that was shooting perfect, so I got a new rifle to mount this Zulus on. And it's a 22 mag, and when I brought it down to the mountains to shoot, I had some integration issues. Part of it was me as a shooter, part of it was this electronic scope, and the other part was a brand new rifle. The rifle wasn't broken in, some of the magazines weren't feeding right, the muzzle cap was coming loose, and I was blaming a lot of it, even my not being used to how to use this, on this optic. This is not really an optic, it's an electronic scope. This is not an optical scope, so if you're used to seeing things bright and clear when you look through a scope and finding your target without any problem, this will not do that for you. This is an electronic scope, so you're looking through the lens of your phone, basically, or a camera inside this scope. So it's not as clear as you would have looking through an optic. So my first piece of advice would get a known rifle that you know is accurate, so you can eliminate anything that happens while you're testing this or shooting it. You can eliminate the rifle because you know you got a good rifle, you know it's clean, you know it's accurate, min of angle, it's a good rifle. So the only two variables is this and you as the shooter. So what I learned is that unlike an optical scope, this one, you need to be up on this optic, up on this scope. You want to mount it as far back and as high as you can, almost like an AR style scope mount. Up and back is conducive to getting your eye up on this scope. I found for best accuracy, you need to be in line. You know, we tend to get lazy on optical scopes and we'll kind of lean, come in from the side or lean the rifle, and it's still very little parallax. You can get in there and you still have accuracy. On this thing, I started early on, I accused this thing of losing zero. I mean, it would shoot up just an inch or two, but it wouldn't hit center all the time. And so I go back in and move the crosshairs, that's very easy to do. But I was moving crosshairs and I was pulling my hair out until I learned that if you get behind this consistently, get your cheek well and get your eyeball up on this cap, you're eliminating any parallax, and the accuracy started to come back. I was so frustrated the other way. I was shooting squirrels. I shoot squirrels with this. So there's very little margin for error when you're shooting squirrels. And when I got down here in the spring, most of the squirrels were baby squirrels. So there's less margin for shooting baby squirrels than there is for adult squirrels. So if you're a half inch off one way or the other, you're missing your target. So I would aim at a squirrel, boom, hit it. I'd aim at another squirrel, same range or closer, miss. I aim up again, miss. Aim up again, miss. So I'm cussing this stupid scope, thinking, you know, it's got to be the scope. It can't be me. Can't be the rifle. Until I found out that you got to stay consistent. You got to get your cheek up, get your eyeball aligned center, not off to the side, center, and get it on that cup. That also helps being able to differentiate objects in the lens if your eye is close to this. Otherwise, everything just blends in. So, use a known rifle. That'll eliminate half your problem right there. Get used to the fact that this is not an optic, and the quality, the resolution of what you're seeing through there is not going to be like in an optic. This, I hunt up here in the foothills, and the rocks are granite, and the squirrels have a natural camouflage fur. And when you get a squirrel in the shade on a granite rock and you look through this electronic scope, you can't see him. You got to have a pair of binoculars to come up and go, okay, he's right by the thistle 2 inches to the right, and you look through here and you see an object there, but you can't tell what it is, and you shoot that object. If the sun's shining on a squirrel, it's pretty easy to pick him out with this, but it just doesn't have the resolution of an optical scope. So take that for what it's worth right off the bat. If you're looking for an optical scope that does what this does, this one won't do it for you, but it does a good job. I like the fact that you can take photos, movies. I found this to be a steep learning curve for me. I associate it with setting up your new cell phone or setting up your new digital TV set. And once you read the manual, I'm not one of the guys that skips the manual. I go through and read the manual. You get an idea what these buttons do, but it really doesn't explain the operation to you. You just have to do that. Now, I like this one-shot sight-in, but it's very steep learning curve to master that. In other words, when you call up the menu and you push the right button to get to where you're going, it's confusing on the bottom. Well, I don't want to go into that right now. Another thing I found that was conducive to consistent accuracy on this, besides being up and on it, was the power you use to sight it in. Don't sight it in at like 4.5 or 6, and then stay on that power when you're shooting. I do that, and I found my accuracy came back. I'll zoom up to 9 or 10.5 for a long shot if I want to take it, and often I can hit that squirrel. But for consistent shooting, I'll zoom it back down to what I sighted it in on, 4.5 or 6 usually, and I get really good accuracy at that power. I just tripped onto that, and it works for me. So one thing I did, I really don't like this camera on button. I've gotten used to it, I've accepted it, but you know, a lot of night vision have these wires that come down to a button, and you can turn that, or you can start something by pressing that button when your rifle is in the handle position, either with your thumb back here or with your thumb or forefinger up here, and then it turns on your night vision scope or whatever. I've seen that on several videos and several websites. Something like that for this, for starting this camera, would be good, I think. I think I would like that. What I have to do is I reach up here, I'm looking through this, sighting at a squirrel. The first thing I have to do is spin the focus knob. Thankfully, I don't have to go far with this focus knob because it changes really quick. And then I have to come back, my eye is on here, and so I'm watching my target, and I have to feel with my finger for the camera button. And if I'm just off one way or the other, it'll hit this button, because you have to long press this to start the camera. And unbeknownst to me, one time I long pressed this. If you long press this, it changes to black and white. I didn't know that. It doesn't tell you what black and white and color modes do for you in the owner's manual. It just tells you that if you press this button long enough, it'll go from black and white to color. Well, who uses black and white for anything? Is that for night? No, you could use infrared for night. So it went into black and white. I didn't have any idea why it did that. And I was mad because it did that, because I thought the camera just went donk and changed to black and white all on its own, spontaneously. And I had to email the manufacturer, and I'm up in the mountains, so I don't get any reception, so I had to wait several days before they answered. But in the meantime, I was playing around with this IR feature, so there's 2 different IR illuminators that you can get. You get one if you get the scope without the rangefinder. You get a different one if you get it with the rangefinder. So I just happened to shift between those 2 to see what it would do, and boom, that popped me back into color. So I thought, oh, magic, I fixed it. Well, several days later, I found out that way you just long press this again, and it'll change you back to color. Well, be a little more clear than that. And make it so when my finger's up here wandering around, it's easy to find the camera button. That's one of my gripes. But I got used to it. The manufacturer includes a mounting bracket for the Zulus, and it's a pretty nice one. It's got 3 screws that clamps just about any kind of Picatinny rail. And the rifle I mounted on, this Bergara 22 mag, it comes with a Picatinny rail. But when I mount it as far back as I can to get the proper eye relief so I can see clearly, I'm in the last groove of the Picatinny, and you can see problemo. Bolt interferes with the mount. So I've got to move this forward at least an inch to get the bolt to clear, come up in here. And when I do that, the Picatinny bolt for the rail is right underneath here. So it's got to fit in a groove. And the next opening still interferes, you can see. So if I move it way up here, like that, I got no eye relief whatsoever. I got to lean all the way in, and my chin is pressing into the safety. It's just, it doesn't work. So I had to take this out and mill a slot as far back as I could get this to mount and still allow my boat to cycle. And that's still not far enough back or high enough to use comfortably. I've got to force myself forward on this rifle in an unnatural cheek well to the stock, an unnatural position for my eye, so my head is kind of cocked a little, and it doesn't work for me. So this may be designed for an AR style mount or something with multiple slots in a Picatinny, but it doesn't work on the Bergara bolt actions. Not for me anyway. So I'm going to have to block this up with another rail and get probably at least a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch with the rail that extends back, that I can get this in here high enough that I can miss that bolt. So at least a 1/2 inch. Another issue, but it is a nice mount. There's 4 screws that hold it to the body, so it's very stable, and when I did have it mounted, I didn't have any issues of this coming loose at all. Okay, yesterday I was using the Zulus. I was using it on the 22 mag. I had just shot it the day before, or maybe it was 2 days before. I alternate my rimfire 22 with my 22 mag. I shot it 2 days before, and it was shooting accurately for me for what I was using it for. Yesterday I took it out, and the first couple shots were misses, and they were at about 65, 70 yards, and that was unsatisfactory. So I put it on a mossy rock, and I noticed that my shots were 2 inches to the left. So this electronic scope lost to 0 for me. And I believe that it has done this frequently over the last 6 weeks. I've had to re-zero this scope a couple of times. Some of those times I blamed it on the rifle, but I think it's the scope. An optical scope, everything is mechanically attached, so you have to have a mechanical failure for something to go wrong. These are just electrons in the space inside this that's holding projected reticle in a certain space-time continuum, and every time you turn it on, how does it know where to go back to where it was? So I don't know how you expect these things to hold 0. It must be magic of some sort. But I know that I'm convinced, fact or not, that this thing loses 0. I like the one-shot zeroing. You save money on ammo for sight-in, but you really don't save money if you got to re-zero this every 2 weeks, or every 6 times you turn it off and turn it back on. You have to re-zero it. You're wasting ammo, because it takes, I don't know, 3-4 shots before you're satisfied that you're back on accuracy and you're ready to go off and shoot at another squirrel. So I got this Zulus because the price for a night vision was very good, and I wanted something that would take movies through the lens. I've tried GoPro cameras, helmet mount, chest mount, handlebar mount for shooting squirrels, which is what I do with these rimfire rifles. And it works, but it's just not quite the same as watching it through the field of view of the scope. So this works good for that. And for that, I'm glad. I like this product for that purpose. And it was considerably less expensive than a night vision, but I haven't really used this as a night vision scope. I've shot several rounds through this over the last 6 weeks, probably close to 800, and it has functioned well overall during that time. There were no material issues. There were some steep learning problems that I got over. I didn't take it out at night. Well, I took it out at night and verified that the IR function works. I saw some mice out back behind my cabin. I saw a coyote over on the side of a hill, things like that, but I didn't go out hunting with it, so I can't vouch for how effective it is as a night vision scope for hunting. That'll come later. It does work well for daytime use for squirrels, and that's what attracted it to me in the first place. Overall, like I said, I had some steep learning curve problems with this. So I was very negative against this for probably 2 or 3 weeks until I figured out some of the little intricacies to make it work better for me. But the jury's still out on whether I'm keeping this or getting rid of it. But I've come around to accepting it, and for what I've been using it for the last week or two, I like it, and the accuracy has been acceptable. Sometimes when you watch the film you take on your laptop, you can see when you miss something, you go, oh yeah, I can see there that I pulled that shot to the right, or I pulled it low, and you combine that with the squirrels I've been shooting are such a small target, and the room for error on that is very small, then it's not always the scope's fault. Granted, the vision you see through here on the little screen is not as crystal clear as it is on your laptop, so at the time you can't tell that you pulled it a little bit to the right or a little bit down. So you think you were right on, and this thing just lost 0. So if you can live with that on occasion, you will like this. If you need the accuracy of an optical scope every time you fire, you may not like this. So that's where I'm at. I went from being a hater to, okay, I can get used to this, to, okay, it kind of does what I want it to, and it's acceptable that I miss occasionally. But for the most part, it's fairly good. I can shoot a lot more squirrels with my 3x9 Vortex on this rifle than I can with this, but I don't get any film, and I can't shoot at night. So, and the error, as you know, compounds the longer your range. So stay within the capabilities of this unit, and I think you'll be happy. So that's it. That's my final thoughts. Would I recommend it to you? It depends on what you're expecting and what you want this for. Good luck with it.